If you give me 6% odds that I'll have a purpose-filled life if I give it a go, that's actually 6 out of 100. That's pretty good. Like when you become a digital nomad, especially back then, it's quite lonely. A lot of people look at me like, well, it's Alex. He's always been so positive. Look at him. He's so polished. He never embraces his shadow. I'm like, I lived in the shadow.
On this episode, I want to really go into your mind. Why do you think people don't achieve their goals?
Before you even get to what is a purpose-filled life, you have to start questioning yourself.
How did you deal with life setbacks, with the mindset you have today and what you know today?
I'm a growth-minded person, meaning I choose to focus on how can I learn from this, and I'm also not fixed as an individual, that I can evolve, that I can also adapt.
Hello guys, welcome to House of Impact podcast. Thank you so much for being here. The episode that I'm bringing you today is with a very, very, very special guest. It's actually one of my biggest inspirations and a big inspiration for me when I made the move to London in 2019. And it's really going to help you get to a better place, but more so understand and realize that you are already on the right track and where you need to be. I also want to make special mention of the best year journal. So this is a journal I started using 30 days ago because I'm someone that I'm always go, go, go. And I never realize how far I've already come if I don't do reflections. And then I realize I got everything that I need within myself. So we're going to link the link of the best year journal and the 5-minute journal. You guys know the journal, of course. I'm going to link this in the description down below because, and this is not paid, this is not sponsored, this is very, very genuine because this journal and journaling itself has truly, truly, truly changed my life. I do believe in whatever you visualize and believe in becomes reality. And this is proof, and we're here on this podcast. So I'm going to link this down below and you guys can get a copy of this.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I guess on this episode, I want to really go into your mind.
Let's do it.
I want to go into your mind journey. And I want to start by the early stages. I mean, people that see you now, this is someone very successful. This is someone that is living their dream life. And I know that a lot of people are looking at you and being like, I wish I could do that. And they don't know that it's actually possible to do that. I've listened to one of your episodes where you said that you immigrated to Canada and you were eating canned tuna, you were in banking, then you were arrested, and you had a aha moment with yourself where you said, okay, Alex, let's get it together and let's do something there with our lives. Can you guide us on that journey from you being in that place, being in a victim mindset, to being in a place of taking charge of your own life? How did you make that change?
Yeah, for sure. Well, again, thank you for having me. And the order that you were saying, banking and arrested, the arrested came before the banking. I come from very humble beginnings. And when my family immigrated to Canada, obviously don't know really any words of English except maybe some swear words. Usually that's the first words they teach you. And I'm in this place where I thought was America. I didn't even know it was Canada, which is a different country. And then my parents shortly divorced, so I'm now with my single mother, 2 kids, just trying to survive, and working night shifts. She's just doing whatever she can because she's in such a difficult position in her life. And in those situations, I, ended up on the street. Sometimes when the parents are not present, because they're probably most likely trying to do their best to provide some sort of environment for you. In my case, I got around some wrong people, and at the same time I was one of those people too. And as I was going through life, um, when you sometimes take a wrong path, you may end up in a place where you may not want to be. It can be a very dark place. And even recently, a lot of people look at me like, well, it's Alex. He's always been so positive. Look at him. He's so polished. The reality is, and they're like, well, yeah, he never embraces his shadow. I'm like, I lived in the shadow. Why do you think things like the 5 minute journal were created? I wouldn't have created it if I didn't need a tool like that to help me bring me out of the dark and despair and the victim mindset that you're speaking about. So for myself, I was in this moment of, as you said, of not taking responsibility for my life. And I think many of us can be in that position. The reality, life it can be challenging. It can be. And in those challenges, there's opportunities and there's teachings for you to get in those challenges. And we may get those challenges to help us shape us who we are.
Mm.
So in those opportunities, for me, as you were saying, I recall feeling very bad for myself. Really being like the world's not fair. It's all against me. Life sucks. Why me? Just pure victimhood. And it was this light bulb moment. I can keep going there. I can keep going to this dark. Is it going to serve me in any way? And that is when I had the realization of I can take responsibility here. What can I own? The only person that's going to be able to change my life is myself. So how do I then take it and be able to turn it around? And for myself, once I got that realization, then all of a sudden the teachers will start coming your way and opportunities will arise as well.
What were the practices that you took in that dark moment and to get you to a place of taking charge of your life when you were in such a deep and dark place?
Yeah, I think, as I said, one of those teachers that I was introduced to was Tony Robbins. And that was my first introduction towards number one, somebody talking about things like visualization, goal setting, and also the practice of gratitude. And the first practice that I then put into my life was really practicing gratitude. And before that, it was a foreign concept. Like, what is gratitude? What is appreciation? How can I be grateful in a moment of such despair? It was also around then the same time when, my father then passed away from cancer. I had this really serious injury where I was disabled in my left arm. Yeah, it was dark. It was very heavy. Um, and so when somebody speaks of gratitude and hey, you should practice gratitude to help you in this dark time, I'm like, there's nothing to be grateful for. However, I'm like, okay, let me pick this up. Let me just start this practice. And what I then did was I got in the habit of as soon as I would wake up, the first thought that I would have is one thing that I'm grateful for. And if I would forget, usually in the shower, I'd remember and I would be okay, I'm grateful for. And usually it would go to health that I'm standing, that there's maybe hot water, that I can see, I can walk, and that at least my right arm is moving. And even in regards to the death of my father, that hey, I had a father. Yes, he may have died prematurely, but I still had a father in my life for 17 years of my life. Many people don't even have a parent or don't even know their father. I knew him, so it was great. So seeing really the silver lining. So it was through this practice of appreciation and gratitude, I started rewiring my brain towards seeing, hey, actually, there's so much opportunity in my life. There's so much to appreciate in my life. And slowly through that practice, my life started to change.
How did you align your, because for people that know, like you had before the 5 minute journal intelligent change your company, you had a extension business
Yeah.
that you were really really successful in. um how did you create intelligent change 5 minute journal and align it with your purpose?
Yeah, I think, well, it's a good question. The reality is I made more money with the hair extensions than I ever did with the journals. So a lot of people can see the journals, but the hair business was actually quite lucrative. And for those that don't know, Lexi Hair was one of the kind of first direct to consumer clip and hair extension companies. We grew that through the use of YouTube in the year 2010. So now it's really a long time. We're like very early days of YouTube, and we saw an opportunity how YouTube is going to be this incredible platform to be able to really market your business. So we used it not to become influencers, we used it to build a business because we saw it's a great channel. And from 2010 till 2016, when our daughter was born, that's kind of when we, I'll say, retired from YouTube to a certain degree. That channel had over 3 million subscribers, over half a billion views. So this is like early, it's more than a decade ago. And a lot of those videos are tens of millions of views. And through that content, we then built a business. So we understood how you can leverage media in order to be able to build a business fairly early on. And so here we are in our kind of early mid 20s, having this dream of living this lifestyle and traveling the world. Um, because as I said, I come from poverty. So money was a big motivator in having a certain lifestyle. And we still see it now, right? A lot of Instagram is aspirational. It's like, oh, I want to be like that. Because a lot of people like myself at the time too were 9 to 5 jobs and we feel stuck and we're like, well, I don't want to show up or wait for the paycheck. It's, you're in this rat race and you feel trapped. So you want to escape. And we were able to escape. The way I was able to escape, actually, I got fired in 2008.
What a blessing that was.
Well, at the moment, you're like, this sucks. I wanted to be in banking, so I wasn't. I actually enjoyed my job, to be honest. I like my 9 to 5.
Okay.
I didn't want to like Mimi, my partner at the time. She did want to not want to be there, but I could have become a banker and been happy. But for me, obviously, I said, let me give this a shot and to this entrepreneurial thing. And when we started, again, there was dreams of being millionaires and having this lifestyle, but we started in a humble way. We just said, hey, let's make like $1,500 a month with this online thing. And if we're both able to do that, we make $3,000 a month. We can go to like Thailand and live nicely. Why not? And we did that, but because the channel took off so quickly, um, we started generating millions fairly early. And with that, for us, we quickly learned that the stuff doesn't do it for us. Meaning, we bought our dream car and our dream house, and we have these dream vacations. And we had to be honest with ourselves. This was a dream, but did it fulfill us? Yes, in some ways, but not fully. It wasn't making us fully feel alive. In fact, as you may know yourself, when you become a digital nomad, especially back then, it's quite lonely.
Mm.
A lot of your friends have normal jobs. At least we have each other, but we haven't yet tapped into that community of people who have similar lifestyle businesses like we do. So it's quite lonely, and Mimi, my partner, got really depressed fairly quickly. And you think you guys have everything. Why are you guys depressed? Like you have nothing to complain about. But what we were missing is that purpose in our lives. Yes, we were making money, but we were doing it just for the sake of making money. We didn't have that clear goal of, oh, we're doing this because we love this. We just picked a medium like selling hair extensions because it was lucrative. And fairly early on, we were honest with ourselves that this was not something that we want to do long term, even though it's very lucrative and we made a lot of money doing it. So with intelligent change, somebody approached me and because they learned, he read the book 4 Hour Work Week, and he
Mm.
said, has anyone actually done this? And a friend of ours said, yes, Alex has done it. He lives this 4 Hour Work Week. He's like, great, I need to talk to Alex, which is a really great tip. You want to learn from people who have actually done what you have want to do.
Mhm.
We get connected and he says, teach me how to do this lifestyle thing, business. And I tell him, don't do it for the lifestyle or the money, you know, because even if you succeed, like we did, if you're not aligned with your mission and purpose, you're going to feel empty. So let's reverse engineer to get to know, what do you really care about? What's important to you? What is even fun to you? And he had this crazy morning routine. He's like, well, I love self development and I love, I meditate every morning for an hour. I exercise every morning for an hour. And I journal every morning for an hour. And I read and I'm like, whoa, like, good for you. This is amazing. But for most people, that's crazy. I'm like, because at that time, like, you're unemployed, no kids, no girlfriend. Yeah, you can do all this crazy stuff, but for most people, you can't do it. And that's where I connected also my routine, which was very simple. Just like I said, waking up in the morning and saying one thing that I'm grateful for. I said, okay, mine is a bit too small and yours is a bit overkill. And I believe in the power of practicing gratitude and also journaling. But how do we turn that into a business? That will be a lifestyle business for you because it's connected to both of our passion and purpose. And then I had this idea of, okay, let's kind of, because in a way I saw, there was all these people talking about journaling and the power of journaling and Oprah and gratitude.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, but like, how do I do this thing? And back then, there was no such thing as, well, there are so many journals now. You're speaking, you want to create your own journal. Everybody wants to create their own journal. But back then, there was no such thing as really a guided, prompt based journal. And so we're like, hey, I'm like, I would love to have this type of product for myself where there's daily prompts and I do it. And it's the 80-20 of journaling, this whole method, meaning, you do this 20% amount of effort and you get 80% of results because it's not this heavy 1 hour of journaling in the morning, but you're just doing the minimal effective dose in order to get the benefits out of that session. And that's really how Intelligent Change in the 5 Minute Journal was born.
I think I've heard in one of the podcasts that you were in that people that journal are less depressed and achieve their goals faster than people that don't. What how has journaling changed your life, especially when you were at the place of kind of like what do I do next?
Yeah, well, I think firstly, as I told you, it was before even journaling, that simple practice of practicing gratitude every day, of just saying one
Mm.
thing that I'm grateful for each day, changed my whole life. Think about it, just that one thing, because then what we realized when we were putting together the research for the 5 Minute Journal is that there's this part of your brain called the reticular activating system, RAS. And it's a part of your brain that allows you to really just navigate and see whatever you're trying to focus on. Let's say I talk to you about a certain car. Hey, like, there's this Chinese car called Bid, right? And you never heard of it before. And you're like, I've never seen this thing. All of a sudden you go out and you start seeing them. Because I mentioned to him, like, hey, here's also a picture. He recognizes your pattern. Your brain now recognizes that pattern and what it looks like and is able to now spot it out. Same thing. People may have never seen me before, right? And now they see me on video. And as before in London, maybe we would have crossed paths on a busy intersection like the Oxford Circus, and you would never even recognize me because there's so many things going all around us. Your brain needs to save its energy
Mm.
to not just have all the stimuli and input. So the reticular activating system, once you give it a certain direction, it will now be able to be aware and recognize that pattern in the real world. So as I'm practicing gratitude, I'm reaffirming to myself the things that I want to see in the world. Because one of the other hacks of gratitude that I would practice is not only saying, being grateful for things that I have, however, also being grateful for things that I don't have,
Mm.
but saying it in a statement as if it's already has happened. So, Mimi and I back then we would even do gratitude walks and it'd be like, I'm grateful for having an incredible business and I get to travel the world. And none of those things were true at at that point. But we're saying it as if it's real, if it's present, if it's certain. And the funniest story was Mimi's dad called one day and said, "What are you guys doing?" She said, "Well, we're doing this gratitude practice." And he's like, "Get a job. Like, this is like get realistic. You need to
Yeah.
work. Gratitude
Yeah.
is not gonna pay your bills, okay?" And of course, gratitude doesn't, may not pay your bills. It does for me now. However,
Funny enough.
however, is that it gets you to focus on certain things. And so this is why we want to expand the practice in regards to with the 5-minute journal of not just, just practicing gratitude, but also then focusing your mind of, what are the 3 things that would make today great, or what will I do to make today great? Once again, affirmation, reaffirming to yourself of who you are. And with the 5-minute journal, we really channeled and built this foundation, which many journals are based on. If you think
Mhm.
about it, they're all really remixed versions of the 5-minute journal. We created the bicycle that for journaling and that habit. So for myself, it was first started with that habit of just practicing gratitude in a way of speaking to myself. And that's why I tell people even now, if you have an excuse, oh, the 5-minute journal is too expensive or whatever, I'm like, you don't even need a journal. Just start practicing of doing this practice of waking up tomorrow in the morning and reminding yourself. Of course, it helps to have something more tangible on your bedside
Mhm.
as a reminder to so that you don't put it off.
Mhm.
And you actually, especially when you put, I think, pen to paper, there's a certain power to it. And of course, we have also, now iPhone or Android app, which you for the 5-minute journal. And in fact, it's what you do in the physical one, you can do for free in our app.
Mhm.
However, I still believe, maybe I'm old school, the power of pen to
Yes.
paper and be able to put those thoughts into physical and then for them to be able to transform into your real life.
What you say to me really, really like stands out because when I first moved to London in 2019, I started a social media marketing agency, and I was seeing a lot of people having success with it. I'm like, I'm gonna have success with it too. And then like I moved to London with like what, £5,000. So in
That's
London,
pretty good.
that's pretty
Good
good.
for you. Did you
Yeah.
save that?
I saved that, yeah. I
Amazing.
worked like 3 years. I've literally did what no one would want to do. I come from a single mom and, we didn't grow up poor, but when my parents divorced, there was never money. And I put myself through college and I put myself through like, okay, we cannot afford an English teacher. Let me just go and teach English. Let me just go on YouTube, learn, and then teach English so I
Mhm.
can get teaching lessons. So I was always very resourceful. So when I got myself to London, it's like, okay, if other people can succeed and can succeed fast, I can also do it. And I remember this one day I was super, super close of like super close of my first £10,000 month. And then COVID hit. And then I lost all my income and I couldn't
Mm.
pay rent. Like, what am I gonna do? And I remember very vividly, it was very, very hard for me to be grateful at that time. And I was just eating noodles with butter. I always say this, and people are like, "Oh, you're the noodles and butter girl." I'm like, "Yeah, noodles and butter." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so grateful that this butter tastes so good." But for me at that time, what I did is like, okay, let me just grab pen and paper. Let me just start writing what I'm grateful for, because I come from like I'm adopted. So when I was born, my brother he was 12 and took care of me because my mom was not in a good space to take care of me. And
Mhm.
from going from there to then being in London, it's like I am just grateful for being in London. I don't care if I have to eat batter and noodles for like another month. I am grateful I got myself here because I got
Mhm.
myself here.
Yeah.
And then I started like journaling and saying it out loud. Like at that time, I was living in Stratford and I wanted to move to Chelsea so, so bad.
Mhm.
Completely different. And I was saying, oh, I am so grateful I'm living in Chelsea now. And what an amazing apartment. 5 months later, I was in Chelsea, literally in
Mhm.
that apartment. And that's when, like, okay, I need to keep journaling as well. So that truly, truly has an impact. And I feel for me, it really, really helped me get unstuck a lot. But also the other day, I was actually doing some research, and the University of, I think, was Wyoming in the States. They did a study, and the study was like how many people like they feel fulfilled with what they do, and how many people achieve their goals. And they said like only 6% of people are actually fulfilled or living a purposeful life, and the rest are not. And that really stuck into my brain, because like how is it possible that so many people don't achieve their goals? So as someone that has achieved a lot, but more so the life that you envision for yourself, why do you think people don't achieve their goals? Do you think it's mindset? Do you think it's strategy? Or do you think it's just they don't believe in themselves?
Great question. Well, I think the one thing that I want to put people's focus on, if you even look at those odds of like 6%, I think those are actually pretty amazing odds.
Okay.
Like if you give me 6% odds that I'll have a purpose-filled life if I give it a go, that's actually 6 out of 100. That's pretty good. Like think of how many people are. I think the statistics is actually lower, but if you can get 6%, like I'm game. I think
Okay.
it's great stats. Um, to get to your question of why do some achieve it while others don't? Even myself speaking, of course, it's easier to speak in hindsight once you have been able to be one of those lucky few who are able to do it. And uh, it is in some ways, life is very competitive, especially in a city like London or New York. You're putting yourself out there, in the top kind of city and to compete against the rest. It's much easier to, I would say, it's cheaper to be in a smaller city, but those same opportunities may not be there. For me, the way I'd want to, I guess, come at this question and answer to you is before you even get to what is a purpose filled life, you have to start questioning yourself of what is that to you? What is important to you? Because some people may look at my life and be like, I don't want that life. Because maybe they want to live somewhere rural and they don't want to travel and they just want to like chill and be next to, I don't know, horses. And that's their idea of a purpose filled life. So I think before we, you know, project anything around what is that definition, we all have our own unique definition of what is a good life to us. And as long as you get to know yourself, and the way you do that is by sometimes living life and learning and trying different things. But most importantly, as you're trying, as you sometimes maybe even yourself, hey, maybe you came to London and you had this big dream, and then you're like, you know what? Like after giving it a go, you're like, London sucks actually. Like I don't like it. I don't feel good here. And in fact, back home, I felt way better. So cool, like make that choice and turn around, but you gave it a go. You actually did it. You weren't back home saying, "Oh, London, whatever." And that's what a lot of people do, right? They'll start making excuses without having real lived experience of putting themselves out there and potentially failing. Because through trying and failing is when we actually learn and be like, "Okay, this is what I like this or I don't like this." So I think for me, it all starts knowing yourself. The way you get to know yourself better is by putting yourself out there and trying more things. And at the same time, also listening to your intuition. I think even yourself, you can kind of also answer this when you were back home in kind of this town, you had a certain calling. You're like, hey, I don't belong here. I want to get out. Is that something that you felt?
All the time. All the time. Like we were, I remember this is so vividly. I was just about to move to London, and I just said to my dad, so my parents are divorced, and my stepmom is from Uruguay. So I just said to my stepmom, like, I am moving. can I move to London? She's like, don't ask me. Are you moving or are you not moving to London? It's like, I'm moving to London. It's like, okay, now go tell your dad. I'm like, I'm shitting my pants.
Mm.
And then I went and I told my dad, I am moving to London. And he's like, but we had to think about it. My stepmom was like, no, 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 she's not asking you. She's just telling you she's moving to London. So for me, it was just like, I was always the black sheep, but I knew where I was going and I knew the life that I was building. And I knew that that was what I wanted at that time. And I just went to do it.
Yeah, and so I the point that I'm trying to make is, like, listening to what your truth may be, and for all of us, it's very different, and going after that is a very important element. And even if it may not turn out the way you may have dreamed about it. If it works out great, great. But if not, it's also okay because you pursued that intuition and that calling that you have. Not everybody has a calling to move out of their city and move to a big city and pursue this kind of life. So, but if you do have that, um, you have to listen to yourself and get in touch with that and try to take the actions and the next steps in order for you to get there. So for for myself, to be honest, that's another, I think, in full honesty, power of who you are, who your friends are, and especially who you choose to be in a relationship with or
Mm,
marry. I
yes.
would say myself personally, like I said, I was happy working in a bank. I was fairly content living in Canada, but it was Mimi, who then was my wife, who was like, "Hey, I don't want to live in Toronto and I want to live in London." So I was like, "Okay, cool. Let's make this happen." And in a way, it was her dream of wanting to do it, and I supported her, and we did it together as a team, and did it together. And once I got here, I'm like, "Guys, this is great. I love it." And now I'm so grateful for her pushing us to make that move. And of course, I did a lot of the legwork to actually make it happen. And that's why sometimes having a partnership and you can be a team to make things happen. And sometimes you may not know where you want to go. And there may be a person with you or your friend who will push you towards a certain direction to go. So that's why it's very important. Be careful who you surround yourself with because either people will be like, no, like people are like this, and also the language around potentially, you'll say limiting beliefs of,
Mm.
oh, big city people are like this, or people with money are like that, but they're all just projections if you haven't actually lived and experienced those things. So it's important to go out there and actually live those experiences yourself.
I have a question that I've been meaning to ask you for a long time, and I'm gonna do it in this podcast
Yeah, let's do
because
it.
that was the purpose of me creating a podcast in the first place. But
Yeah.
how did you? A lot of people use the term brainwash. I don't kind of like don't like the term. I like more like rewiring. How did you rewire your subconscious or your mindset or your mind to attain success and not only attaining success, but doing it quick?
I think another thing is I want to say is, as I grow older, and you look back at life, you see things a different way, and sometimes you do think about this idea of kind of, they call it like kismet. It's meant to be. It's like destiny, and that's where I kind of connecting to what I was saying before about uh, we have potentially different destinies that we can live out, and it's all kind of stored within, and potentially your path in this life is kind of predestined. However, you can jump up or down to what your destiny may be, and you're able to shift what that destiny may be. And there's periods in my life where I could have ended up homeless, and that's why I also humbled myself. It's not like, hey, it's Alex and you've achieved a success. Like, hey, I could have ended up on the street. And that could have been also my one of my destinies. But it's being able to be aware of yourself and your actions and how you go towards certain things. So you have to be, I think, I'm also phrasing this, you have to be patient with yourself. And I myself remember being in that place where I'm like, wha again, the victimhood, right? Why am I poor? Why are things not working out? And before we struck our business that, made us that kind of wealth, we were struggling, like, we are losing money, like, I got fired, but the next 2 years, we're trying different businesses out. I was also trying to do, like, social media consulting, 2008, right? So, like, this
Long
is
time ago.
wild, wild west, and um and so then, um, things weren't working out. They weren't sticking. And the opportunity that we had, of where we're able to achieve that success quickly, that actually wasn't our goal. Like, we weren't stressing ourselves to be like, we must become millionaires by like time we're 25. That was not the goal at all. Like I said, the goal for us was, I just want to make $1,500 a month. And I'm still open to opportunities and to be able to have more abundance in my life. I'm not limiting myself. However, I'm appreciative and grateful, for every dollar that I am able to make. I remember even, the a lot of people that I come across, especially young people, they're like, I want to be like you. I want to be a millionaire. I want to have this lifestyle. And I'm like, first, or they're saying I'm gonna be that. They're trying to embody it. Yeah, I'm grateful. I'm a billionaire, whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. Make $100 without your family or friends. Go sell something. I remember the biggest game changer for me in my career, like post working for somebody, was when we first launched our first business. We went to sleep. I woke up and I made money, right? Because it's a big mindset shift to go from when you're trading your time for money, and you'd be like, oh, if only I made $30 an hour, that would be so cool. Because I remember I used to make like $5 an hour at one of my first jobs. I know what it's like to trade your time for money, and most of us are doing that. But to be able to transcend and, you know, create something and then be able to sleep and wake up with more money, that just blew my mind. And that opened up to a whole new potential of how do you create, um, wealth, abundance, wealth. And a lot of it really starts with, I think, so beyond thinking about, how do you achieve success quickly, the thing that I want to point out is I myself was that person that's saying, like, how do I make money? How do I become rich? How do I have this lifestyle? And things weren't working. Yeah, there weren't. I was still broke, and my money was like whatever money I had, was disappearing quickly. And the big aha and realization that I had, and that again, that allowed me to get to that next level of mindset, is realizing the way to make money, it's not to think about yourself. It's not
Mhm.
to think about, I need the money. How can I have money? Who's going to give it to me? It's not about you. If you want to attract money into your life, you have to start to think about other people. How can I serve other people? What can I do for other people? What value can I give them? What can I create that will solve other people's problems that they'll want to transact with me? And that is when, everything has changed. And then I started looking for other people's problems. So my first business, like, that succeeded was women want longer hair. And I helped solve that problem by creating a product that clips in and instantaneously transforms their look, and they're happy. And that's why we made millions of dollars. That's it. It's really that simple. It's because we were able to give something that people are looking for. And there's people doing all sorts of things. Somebody, you needed chairs, somebody made these chairs, and boom, you delivered value. So the way I see business now, it's very simple. It's just money is just a value exchange. It's a way to transact. So you don't care about the money, like the actual like paper thing. You Care about what is able to help you transact with that you believe will give you more value into your life. And that can be a holiday, that can be an outfit, that can be a car, that can be a house, but it'll give you some sort of value. So then there's people who are building houses or creating cameras or microphones or watches, whatever you want, or clothing. But business is that simple. And so creating success will is really or wealth is really entirely up to how much value can you deliver to people in the world.
It's always bigger than yourself. Whatever you create is like it's always bigger than you.
Yeah.
It's like you just have to. I think for me, when I was struggling early in my career, I'm like, oh, I want to sell this for this much money because I want to make money because I need money. And it was just me, 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 me.
Mhm.
And then started recording this podcast last year. Like I was had to like shut down my consulting business that I was doing for the last 5 years because I was not happy.
Mm,
I was exchanging my time for money, and I was just like, there has to be a way out of this. And I was at such a low, and I'm like, how am I gonna get out of this? Okay, let me just talk with people. And I was like, I'm sure there's more people in my exact same position. So let me just create something that I always wanted to create, but something that can actually help other people. And then I create the podcast. And every single person I had on the podcast, like whatever you do, it's bigger than you, it's bigger than whatever it is that you want to achieve. It's like it's other people. You don't know, but like a lot of like maybe your journal, which I'm sure saved lives. People will go from being very depressed to like, I actually am grateful today. And the impact that it has is like it is crazy humongous. And I feel like for me, that's what I Wesley told people like that just keeps me going. Like I don't care if I don't make money out of the podcast because it's helping people. So I think for me, when I made a change in my mindset and in when it comes to money, everything changed and things are moving quicker as well. So I feel like that you were really, really spot on there. Um, I want to go on to the other extreme though. How did you deal with life setbacks, with the mindset you have today and what you know today? Because obviously there's lots of setbacks in life. Like, what's your approach to it to get yourself back up faster?
yeah, for sure. So, for me, obviously the big one, one of a big person in my life has been my partner, my wife, Mimi. We're business partners, we're life partners. And I can be like open public about it. It was a big setback going through separation. And it was kind of instigated by her. It was her decision, came out of the blue. So if there was one thing that I was certain in my life was my marriage, was my relationship. And then boom, like it just hits you like, I was in this actual like for to me perfect life, right? But obviously there was some unfulfillment from her. And so that was a huge setback. And so I'm being very kind of vulnerable and open in regards to that life will sometimes challenge you. And so for me, obviously, I'm a growth minded person, meaning I choose to focus on how can I learn from this? And I'm also not fixed as an individual, that I can evolve, that I can also adapt, and that my first instinct is that there's something, a big potential waiting for me. And it is a reframing of the challenge and a setback. Because again, in my life, every time when especially like a big thing came, if I was able to persevere and to keep going in the face of challenge and to not give up, I was then kind of rewarded by something more, even more beautiful. Like I said, and when I got fired from my job at the bank, that was my dream job. I
Mm.
was very happy being a banker. Like that was and that was what I was studying to be, um, and getting all the certifications to upgrade myself. And boom, nope. And it was like a way of life being like, okay, here's another way, like diverting me to a different path that I may follow. And the things that I've learned is in life, you can complain about it, and choose not to let go. However, in my experience, it's more painful to keep resisting to the direction of life is trying to take you. So in those instances of setback, I choose to, in a way, say, okay, this sucks. Acknowledge that this is not the ideal situation. However, then be curious about where will it lead me? Where will I go? And that's the beautiful thing about life. We don't know what's going to happen next second. We really don't. We may have certain ideas. However, none of us know for sure. So the way, and that's what makes life exciting. So the way we flow through life and be like, "Ooh, okay, this is interesting. Where will this kind of path lead to, and how can I make the best of it?" And of course, for me, what I was able to recognize, even as a big life change of mine recently, I was surprised by myself of my like strength, perseverance, especially the people close to me are like, wow, like it's incredible how you're reacting to this. And Mimi and I have a beautiful relationship still. I just saw her just now. We're co-parents. We hang out. We're still business partners. Like, if people would see us, they would think we're not even divorced. Like they'll be like, "Oh, wow, they're like lovely couple," and how I'm still able to maintain that level of love and openness, and not turn that into hatred or resentment. Because oftentimes when we're rejected, we may potentially show up as different selves. And so for me, the surprise was, because people, when they look at things like the products that we've created, like the 5-minute journal, and what's the point of practicing gratitude every day? The point of practicing these things is for moments of challenge. Because when challenge comes your way, you're more prepared. You have now trained your mental muscle and when you're grateful, you're seeing opportunities. If you kept, for example, a journal of all the shit in your life, and you did that daily, you probably just see all the bad and you just go into the things. It's okay to maybe write those things down to release, but if you do that as a daily practice, it's gonna put you towards a different path. So for me, I was able to see firsthand um, the benefits of these practices and how they're able to help you just navigate life, and there will be setbacks, and it's part of the experience, and it's okay. And you move on. The way we often refer to the 5-minute journal, it's a toothbrush for your mind.
Well, I love that.
Yeah, you brush your teeth every morning and night, and it's a one habit that you have created and you do because you can't just stop. You can't just be like, "Hey, I've been brushing my teeth for 30 years. I think I've done it enough, so I'm just gonna stop." Because what happens if you stop? All the bacteria and plaque, the bad stuff will grow out. And you have to maintain this habit to maintain this kind of cleanliness in your mouth. And so the journaling is a way to do that. By practicing first thing in the morning, last thing at night, you're cleansing your mind. You're cleaning it of like all the negativity that the world tries to serve you and say how you're not good enough and how this is, because a lot of marketing is really just speaking like, hey, this is not good enough. So here's my solution, right? But oftentimes it'll make you feel bad. And also in the news, there's always so many bad things in the world, of course, but where your focus and energy goes, that's what you create.
Yeah.
So this is why having these practices for me have been game changing. And I can say that, because oftentimes people would say, "Yeah, Alex, it's good for you to say your life is perfect." Well, now definitely my life is not perfect, and there's stuff that happens. But it's the way that I've been able to deal with it that has been
Hmm.
helpful.
Thanks so much for sharing with
Yeah.
us. One last thing, and because a lot of people that are watching the podcast, they are here because they have something in their life they want to change. And it's not a one size fits all, but what would be a framework that you've used to change your life and achieve your dream life in 3 steps, let's say?
Yeah, I think that one of the easiest exercises you can do, and recently we launched a new product called the Life Designer,
Mm.
which is like a very in-depth process to to help you get to know yourself and also to create a vision of the life that you want to lead. Because what we believe in is by putting this out there and creating a certain guideline and vision for where you want to go, it'll be easier for you to get there because you know where you want to go versus you just kind of end up in places. Without even buying the Life Designer, because it's sold out right now in the UK and Europe, anyways, I recently found this letter, I think last week, in my office, and it was crazy. And this is before intelligent change, before we were into this practice of guided journals. The letter was, I come into the office and in this old notebook on my desk, and I recognize it. I know it's mine. I know I've written there. So I'm like, "Who? Okay, what is this? Let's look at this. Let's see what I wrote back then." And it was from 15 years ago. It was November 2010. So this is just literally when we just started our business, just started making money. And it wasn't like millions yet. Like we haven't made kind of our first million. And it was a letter to myself. And I was like, "Dear Alex, life is incredible right now." So I wrote this letter to myself, really describing what my life is like. And it's a letter to my future self. Um, and all the things that I read in there, I did not, it was dreams in terms of the people that I'm hanging around with, how I'm adding value, the type of work that I'm doing, the purpose. I didn't have intelligent change. I was in the hair business. I wasn't, but helping people provide meaning and purpose in their lives. And so it was incredible to see how an exercise of even that, writing a letter to yourself of in the future and really going to a T of to the detail of how does your life look like? Who's your partner? Where do you live? What kind of work do you do? How do you feel? What emotions do you experience? And there's something to that, to be able to really put things out in the universe and see how life will reflect back to you. Of course, you have to still embody those things and take lots of actions. And in fact, even from reading that letter, I can see, wow, like I'm also on the cusp of certain things where, okay, keep going. That you're on the right direction. Keep going there. Keep persevering. So that's, I think, one of the simple exercises yet profound that people can do to help them create and craft their dream life.
I actually did that.
When did you do that?
I did it 2 times. I first did it when I was in Spain.
Hmm.
Um, and I said, "Dear Jenny, I'm so proud of you that now you're living in London. You're living in Chelsea, doing what you love. I'm feeling super alive, even though the UK weather is not great. Just
You weren't
designing."
totally delusional.
I was delusional,
Yeah.
delusional. And then I wrote another letter 2 years ago. And that was a letter that I will always remember because that was a letter that was like, "Dear Jenny, I know you're now probably interviewing a lot of people on your
Mm,
podcast. You feel so great. You feel purpose. You're not quite there yet, but keep going because you're going to get there. You're going to go through a lot of setbacks, but it's your resilience the one that matters. So
mhm,
just keep going. I love you and I respect you and I believe in you." And now looking back on it, I literally am doing what I said on that letter.
Yeah.
Not everything came true just yet, but it's like it is the most powerful thing to do. Be able to not fake it till you make it, but like feel it, embody it, and believe it, and you will become that. It's just impossible not to.
Yeah.
So I did the same, and it's been life changer for me too.
I think one of the things that I would want to add that I've been recently learning is the importance of these exercises is getting yourself to that state of feeling whole.
Mhm.
As my life is evolving and I'm observing it, I actually see the perfection of life. Like in its setbacks and its ugliness and its beauty, it's actually perfect. Like it's beautiful, this whole journey. And the way you create and manifest, your dream life is you really have to come from a place of wholeness and not lack.
Mm.
And that's one of the biggest factors that sets many people back is those limiting beliefs from maybe your parents or your friends. And that those are the things that we have to be aware of. So the way we overcome that is also through action. It's only now through a decade plus of work I'm able to reflect and be like, actually, Alex, you're pretty good, like at business, because even with my first business, we built it up 8-figure plus business, sold it, and I'm like, I still felt like, maybe I can't do it again, and then boom, I built another one to 8+ figures. I'm like, okay, I'm not a fluke, So sometimes it's still through. What I'm trying to say is, it's still through action. You still have to do it. However, as even now, what I'm understanding is, even as I'm creating, even I have proven these things to myself. Now I want to create from a place of actually wholeness. I'm not trying to prove anything to even myself or to others. I'm creating from a pure form of I just want to create. And I think that's the ultimate state to get to, where you want to dance just because you want to dance. You want to make music because you want to make music. I have friends who are musicians, and the ones who are doing it not for the success, but the ones for the art form, they're the ones who are going to become successful. And same thing, I see people who are just doing and creating for the sake of, because it brings them joy, even if they were not going to get paid for it.
Mhm.
And not asking, what am I going to get from it? You already get a gift just by doing it. Doing it makes you feel good, and you've already received the gift. And that's when I see that big things happen in my life, is when I actually am creating from that sense. I'm coming to this podcast not because I'm trying to sell something, just because I'm like, hey, it feels good to be here and to give and to have this conversation. And so I'm being guided there, because even before I came here, my girlfriend asked me, she's like, do you know where you're going? I'm like, no idea. I'm like, my assistant just scheduled this for me, I'm just gonna show up. I feel like I want to be there, and I'm choosing to put myself out there in that way. And then I think life will give you beautiful surprises when you um really act in that way,
Mhm.
and take the next steps in a more pure way, without trying to transact or get anything, but just doing things because it brings you pleasure.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Alex, for being here with us, for making the time, and for sharing all the life changing things you've shared, and for the amazing company that you've built that's helping a lot of people, including myself. Thank you so much for being in the show today.
Jenny, thank you so much for having me.
Hi guys, it's your host here, Jenny Core. If you made it this far, I hope that this episode has helped you heal, grow, expand in some way. It would mean the world if you can subscribe, like, and comment, because it's gonna help the podcast grow massively. Your support means the world to me and to my team, and we're just gonna bring you better content, bigger guests. So please just support the podcast if you can, and if you think this is gonna help someone, please share it with them. I'll see you next Thursday.